I was born in Newport News, Virginia, but then moved to North Carolina when I was probably 3. I love North Carolina. The mountains are here, and the beach especially is here. And then, we're in the middle, so we can go either or. Well, for the last 22 years, I've been a teacher. I was a middle school teacher, math teacher, for 15 years. And then I moved to the high school, and I was a math 3, algebra 2, geometry, math 3 teacher at the high school for 7 years until I've taken this past year off. I miss my kids and I miss the people I work with, and I'm just one of those that I eat, live, and breathe my job. Right. So during the school year, I'm pretty much a wound up little stress ball.
Met her in a local restaurant here in Apex. We've been married for almost 4 years, coming up, 3.5. She's a ball of fire. She's a lot of fun. She's perky. She's just always upbeat and positive in most situations, so that's what attracted me to her.
He came along and I'm like, I think this is like my person. People talk about that and I'm like, okay, whatever. I didn't believe that, but when I met him after about 2 or 3 weeks, I'm like, I think I've met my person. Where do I start? He's very friendly, he's very caring, he's a good dad, he's very responsible. He loves me to death, he gets me. Inside and out, he gets me.
As she's grown, she has always looked younger than her age. She's become a teacher and very serious at her teaching. She's always had an interest in people, always liked to help people, always seemed to enjoy somebody getting it. So I think the reward of seeing somebody get it has been something that's really been a blessing to her. And then when they don't get it, it's been a real frustration of how can I say it a different way? How can I convince or show them how to make this connection?
I love helping kids learn the math, and I love just interacting with the kids, helping them solve the problems and understand why it works and how it works.
So we grew up together when my dad and her mom were married. Very protective. And so we're about 6 years apart. So she was very protective of me because I was so much younger. She always was there to defend me. Regardless of anything that's ever happened, we've always been brother and sister, regardless.
I was going to have dinner for my girlfriends and teacher friends that I work with on Saturday night. I was planning to cook for them, kind of start the new year, the new school year off. And we woke up, both Al and I woke up about, 6:30 Saturday morning. I remembered I hadn't texted a girlfriend of mine about what to bring for dinner, and she has small kids, so I knew she'd be up soon. So I wanted to go ahead and tell her, bring an appetizer, whatever, and then we went back to sleep.
It was going to be a lazy Saturday morning. And we laid back down and were dozing, and I heard a strange noise coming from her right behind me, and I turn over and she's blue and gasping for air. It was only 28 minutes from the time she had texted her friend until I'm calling 911 and couldn't find a pulse. Well, I first tried to revive her. I was yelling her name and then shaking her, Jennifer, Jennifer, wake up. And her eyes were glazed over, though she was not able to focus. She just wasn't there at that moment. So my instinct was to call 911. I knew I needed to get help as quickly as I could before even trying to start CPR. I knew that's what I had to do first. Put it on speakerphone, and the operator was helping me through what to do.
It started off as a seizure, unknown breathing status, and we initiated CPR.
They knew exactly what needed to happen, and I remember from the class that you can't do CPR on a mattress. I needed to get her out of the bed, but they were telling me to do that as well. I was afraid I was going to break her, but I knew she needed it. I knew her heart was not beating. She needed to get some blood circulating. So I started compressions the way they had taught us in the class. I found the center of her chest and I started pressing there. The period period I had to do CPR was not that long when I heard the fire truck out front. So,
And that's reassuring, absolutely, for both parties, us on one end and them on the other. You want to make sure their door's unlocked so that they can come right in and help.
so I better go open the door because I know they would have kicked it in, but that would have been fine.
She was lying on the floor, checked for a pulse, and there was none. Started getting on the chest, doing compressions.
They started some very high quality CPR.
We radioed in that, it was upgraded to a code and that CPR was in progress.
On their arrival, they went in, advised they had a working code. We worked her for quite a few minutes, shocked her numerous times.
You feel helpless in that moment. All I could do was pray. I started praying, and you're just watching all this activity with 5 people, 6 people in their coordinated effort, and you feel helpless in that moment.
A lot of prayers were going up as we were working the code, of course. And just all of us said, way too young for this.
We defibrillated twice. We did not have a successful defibrillation.
But every time you see that AED fire and then see them go back to chest compressions, that's unnerving.
On our next rhythm check, she was still in VFib, so at that point we decided to change the vector of the defibrillation pads. The change of vector, I believe, was what helped get her successfully back for return to spontaneous circulation.
And I remember it was probably the 5th time that they shocked her. I remember someone saying, "That looks like a rhythm." And that was a glimmer of hope, and then her heart was beating again.
We just monitored, checked her blood pressure, made sure we didn't need to give any pressins to get her blood pressure up, monitored her, got her onto our board, took her out to the truck, and transported to Rex.
I got a phone call from my dad, and my dad said Jennifer had a heart attack. And then he told me that they had done CPR and that she was at the hospital and that it didn't look good.
She's unconscious, she's at the hospital, they're working on her now.
Unresponsive, unconscious, unable to respond to any stimulus or respond to her name or ask her to squeeze your hand, nothing.
My background, I knew that CPR meant things went really wrong, and probably the worst thing that could possibly happened, and you had to work from that point. And then I remember him telling me that Alan had started CPR on her, and that was a little comforting.
It was dark, cloudy dark, and that's kind of how I'm feeling right now, under a dark cloud. And I do remember just thinking to myself, well, Lord, if you're on the other side of these clouds, and I know you are, we really need a miracle right now.
You start to think about the finality of life in general. You start to think about, what am I going to do with all types of things in your life?
She started to try to pull out her tube, and then she tried to kind of get out of bed, and she was trying to figure out what was going on. That's when I was like, okay, well, maybe her brain is working well at this point, and that's a good sign.
I was even more amazed, that she was even still alive, much less, a possibility of her recovering.
I don't remember anything about the event. I do remember being in the hospital and just everybody just pouring out their love, and just so many people coming to the hospital and being present. That was a little overwhelming, just knowing how many people really just loved you. You don't really realize how many people really just love you and care so much. First night, I think my mom stayed with me, and I still wasn't real lucid yet. But then the second night, or third night, I can't remember, Liz had come to stay with me, and she's my sister. I think that's when it really kind of hit, oh, you could have died.
God had his hand in this for us, I know. I think back, she was a teacher, had the summer off. There were 10 nights she stayed down at the beach by herself last summer. Had it been one of those nights, that would have been the end. So there would have been no one to respond.
My takeaway is just how grateful I am. I'm very blessed to have the people in my life that I do.
Overwhelming. Even just one call like this, knowing the outcome, knowing that someone so young still has so much life to look forward to.
just really strengthened my faith even more with all this happening. And He's not done with me yet. So I'm like, all right, Lord, what do you want me to do?